Thank you, Maya. And first, let me welcome you all to New Delhi and thank you for taking the time and making the effort to be with us to discuss this extremely important issue and subject, something that we at ORF have begun to seriously research only 4 years ago. In fact, 4 years ago, I remember it was a conversation with Ankitas, who I'm going to introduce to all of you in just a bit, with Facebook. And we were wondering on how to respond to, at that time, this new menace of the use of technology for furthering insidious agendas. And we decided that we should actually try and target the largest user base of this new technology, which is the youth. And we launched something called the Voice Positive initiative, which engaged with over 60 universities and colleges in the country at that point, brought together close to a couple of hundred youngsters to engage with the crucial question of responding to the misuse of this space. We were doing this for a few reasons. I think the central urgency was to keep this space safe. If we want this to become the medium of communication, of integration, of globalization, of wealth creation, then this space has to be protected, like any other space, like territories, like water, like seas, like outer space. The digital space also needed a certain code of conduct. And we wanted to do this urgently because we didn't want the states, who are known to step in with heavy-handed approaches, to use regulation which would be largely ineffectual to seem as the remedy for this challenge. I think we needed a whole of citizen approach, a whole of community approach, a whole of nation approach, a whole of international community approach to find answers to keeping the digital space safe. And that study and the response we got to it encouraged us that we will have to tap into the diverse set of ideas that exist out there and fashion solutions which are A, evolutionary. I don't think you can devise a solution that will be permanent. People will find ways to get around it. So any solution has to be evolutionary. 2, it must be polysemic, because the internet is polysemic, it is universally used. Solutions cannot be confined to borders, they have to transcend borders, they have to be appealing to stakeholders across borders, and therefore they have to have a degree of polysemy. 3, they have to target the most vibrant communities that engage with this medium, which means they have to be young solutions that appeal to young minds. And 4, they need to reassure states that their idea of sovereign responsibility and agency is not diminished to the extent that they feel the rug has been pulled out under their feet. And I think each of these 4 imperatives are still important. How do you engage with the states to assure them of any measure that is efficient and effectual? How do you engage with the user that his rights and privacy and his personal space is protected? How do you engage with enterprises and assure them that by doing this, economic value is likely to increase and not decrease? And how do you engage as a global community to fashion solutions which are universal, but certainly they are also contextual to your own constitutional arrangements? And I think that was the desire of this initiative that we launched 4 years ago. The initiative did not have an engine at that point of time, and then we discovered Maya Mirchandani. And we asked Maya Mirchandani to take over this simple task of driving these 4 imperatives, and she has done it with a fair degree of panache and elan. She has done research. She has perhaps the most important scholar in India who has studied both qualitatively and quantitatively the trends around radicalization, around all sorts of radicalization. India, like in every other sector, gives you all forms of insurgent ideologies. It is not restricted just to religion or to caste or to ethnicity or what you eat and what you wear, but we devise new ways of being interesting people online, and she studies much of that. But beyond the research that she does very efficiently, I think Maya also has been able to convene a community in India. We found that internationally, the discussions around violent extremism ended in the Middle East. No one looked further east. And I think Maya has built a constituency in this part of the world that actually brings New Zealand and the US together in New Delhi to discuss the different strands of extreme ideology that we need to respond to. So this particular initiative, I hope, will continue to grow. And next year we will have perhaps 50 countries, Maya, who will be discussing, which many of them will eventually realize is an important challenge for all of us, for our economic futures, for our political futures, for our social futures. The last point I wanted to leave behind with you was this careless belief that technology can be responded to by legislation and regulation. It cannot be. Legislations and regulations, by definition, are fixed. Technology is moving. You cannot respond to a dynamic, evolving being, which is technology, with a fixed, static, regulatory, or legislative framework. The antidote to technology has only two central agents. One, technology itself, and technology must respond to technology. We must find ways of responding to the challenges that we create when we build platforms, and we're going to hear from Anki after this. And she is one of those who's unhesitant to say that one of the biggest challenges for the platform is responding to the virality of hate that the platform may have spawned. But second, I think it's the users. I think the Christchurch call, in all its carefully laid out framework, lays emphasis on awareness in education, capacity building, and literacy. And I think that is perhaps the single most important tool that many of us have not yet fully deployed. And I truly believe that at ORF, certainly, our next phase of engaging with this issue has to be to go down to the schools. You know, it is at the ages of 12, 13, 14, and 15 that you build your understanding of the world, on how you engage with your neighbors, on how you, the digital neighbors in this case, how you engage with society as a whole, how you participate in politics and daily life. And it is at that age that we must be able to curate and carefully inculcate certain digital ethics, which will hold all of us in good stead in the days to come. And I think, so Maya, another, in a sense, key responsibility area for you is how do we bring these conversations to schoolrooms? And I think that's the next phase of what we must be doing, engaging with younger minds to respond to this central threat around the digital space. And I hope that over the next 2 days, based on the talent we have gathered here and the experience we have in this room, we will be able to illuminate some of the options and next steps that many of us must engage with. So I wish you all 2 great days of discussions, and I hope to see all of you back in India again very soon. This is not going to be a one-stop shop for us when it comes to CVE. With Facebook, with governments, with many other organizations, ORF has planned at least 7 to 8 touch points around this theme through the year in different parts of the world, in Africa, in Kigali, in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, in the Raisina dialogue in Delhi again. We hope to have this conversation and we hope to engage greater sets of minds and individuals to join us in responding to the central big question around insurgent ideologies fueled by technology.